Hey, 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 it's your boy B, Anointed Hands the Family Barber. Yeah, I'm checking in. A lot of people have been asking me, how did I get into barbering? So, real quick, I'm gonna try not to be too long. I wanna keep you guys interested. So, this is my story. All right. I love being a barber because it changed my life. Well, I was born in 1981, raised by my mom, Robbie Williams, lovely lady, and my father and grandparents were all a part of my life. My childhood was great. We had the summer vacations, all of that, man. Things was good. The family reunion. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood with a lot of friends where we would, play basketball, run up and down the streets and everything. We called it the hood. I even got tattoos that say hood style and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was pretty cool growing up. I always liked to make money, so I would always go around the neighborhood cutting grass, doing odds and ends for my mom, whatever needed to be done so that I could, like I said, put a dollar in my pocket. I was always infatuated with making my own money, being able to do things for myself, even as a young kid. So I got the neighborhood barber, man, by the name of Dan Moore Sr. Shout out to Dan Moore Sr. Yeah, he sat me down and he took the time to show me how to cut. He let me cut his hair for every week. He would come and get a cut. I would mess it up. He would fix it. After a couple of weeks, I kind of got the hang of what I was doing. And I began to practice on myself and I began to practice on others, cousins, friends, people just gained their trust in me. And before long, people started paying me. They started just tipping me. At this point, I wasn't even charging yet. And yeah, it just it kind of took off from there. I'm about 12 years old at this point. This was before the age of YouTube and social media and video. So if we wanted to learn how to do something particular with a haircut, you just had to practice, or you had to actually go and watch a barber who already knew how to do it. And then you could pick up some tips and some tricks from him. So man, I can even remember, man, I started to get busy. I started charging $5 a head. And I remember making my first $100 on my mom's porch. She charged me for power, which was, she called it electricity. She charged me for the electricity and, her water and stuff like that. And man, that was that was an experience that was, a game changer for me, man. It was one that kind of, made cutting hair a part of my life. Yeah. People always ask me, was I mischievous as a child? Yeah, I stayed in and out of trouble a lot, just simple stuff that kids do. But I just was bad sometimes. I don't know why. We make a lot of changes. We go through stuff that make us who we are. And, I'm making no excuses, but I am the person that I am. Like I said, by the time I was in 8th grade, my mom tried to keep me out of trouble. I stayed in and out of trouble a lot. She was always had my back, and I would always do something else. So that kind of went on until I was about 16 or 17, and at the age of 17, that's when I had my first child. My daughter was born. Very beautiful, loving princess, Kaylani Johnson, also known as Lonnie 24K. You might know her. Yes, this is my daughter. I had her when I was 17. So now I'm stressed. I'm like, how am I going to take care of a child? I got to get a job. No more school and football and playing around. I have to be this responsible parent. And it really put this big burden on my shoulders. But she wasn't a burden. It's just that I didn't know how to take care of things yet. That was the burden. Yeah, I kind of laid low through the high school years, man. I was pretty smooth, man. I made good grades, so long as I was making the good grades, mom, parents, they weren't really bothering me. Um, so by the time I was 18, I was about to graduate with a 3.75 GPA from Booker T. Washington. I had all my credits, I had all my classes and everything, but I was still ripping and running the streets late night. Behind the scenes, I was a whole nother person. By this time, I was addicted to the fast money and just the independence of being able to hustle, man, and just have that money whenever you needed it. That money is just at your hands. And, things began to just spiral out of control at this point in time. So right before I graduated, I got arrested. It was my first time getting arrested as an adult, a big charge. And I'm like, okay, this one's not a game. Now, finally, they sit me down. I was incarcerated for a while, waited, got on bond, after a couple months. Now I'm back on probation and still really not following things the right way. Now, these next couple years from 18 to 24, they really kind of spiral fast, man. These years were a mixture of trying to be a father, trying to learn how to be an adult, in and out of jail, drug rehabilitation systems, drug programs, violation of probations, and, all of the above, you know. So around about the age of 24, I have my first, serious, what I call a serious charge, which was cocaine possession. And that landed me, on probation, which I violated, and it sent me to prison for a year and a day. You know, during my time being locked up is when I decided, hey, things have to change. I have a daughter, I have a son. What am I gonna do now? I have a wife. I'm married. I have this woman who has my back, and she's had my son. I've made her all these promises. What am I gonna do? So I decided to give my life to the man up above, and that's when I started to see a change in my heart and myself for the better. Being locked up is a whole nother story. During my year in the day, it was very positive. I learned a lot. But let's just say I made a promise to the Lord that if he got me through this, that I would definitely take care of my family. I would be a man. I would do my best to stay out of trouble and be a positive member in society. Now, don't mention, let's get off topic. All this is about cutting hair. I have been cutting hair, and cutting hair continued to stay with me through all these fashions. Again, I continued to cut hair through all these ups and downs, through the programs, working different jobs. I would cut my co-workers' hair, and I cut hair in prison, I cut hair in county jail. So those are some of the things that continue to push me to be the person that I am. But like I say, I did my time, I came home, and upon coming home, I got out there and tried to be as productive as I could. I got a job, I was at home, I helped out around the house, I helped change, diapers and bottles, and then I got another son. As soon as I come home, my wife, Miss Veronica Williams, and we have another son. So now I have 3 children to care for. So, now I'm working odds and end jobs, and, I'm just not satisfied with the money that I'm making. I'm like, okay, this is not going to take care of 4 people. And I want to be the head of the household. I want to be able to take care of everything, bring home the bacon, as they say. Time is money, as they say. But yeah, so I tried the odds and end jobs for here and there, and they just seemed it didn't work out. Well, one day, a friend of mine by the name of Philip Erlington, he came over, and I seen him, and I just had something about him, and I asked him, I said, hey, Phil, what you got going on right now? Phil said, man, I'm in barbering school, and I used to cut Philip's hair way back when we were young kids. And I said, you in barber school for real? I said, man, I used to cut your hair. He said, yeah, but I'm in barber school now. I said, what'd you have to do to sign up? And he told me that he got a Pell Grant. And I know he was a convicted felon. He had just recently came home from prison. So I walked to PJC the next day. It was like a 5-mile walk. I walked from my house to PJC, and I basically did what everything I needed to do to sign myself up. I graduated from adult high there, so I actually knew of things to do. So I signed myself up for the program, and I didn't have the money to get in, but just, on the whim and the dream, it was a blessing from God because it was my destiny. I got approved for financial aid like a week later, and like 3 days later, I'm in the program. So, that was a blessing. I was passionate about it because now I feel like this is a new beginning in life. Well, barber school was awesome. Great professors, great friends, great experiences. Started off was kind of rocky. I got into it with the professors. Here I go with my attitude, knowing the attitude always knocks you down. A bad attitude will only put a limit on a cap on what you can do. So, I had a bad attitude, and I got an argument with the lady, and, I said some cuss words at her. So now they tell me I can't come on campus. Long story short, I end up having to take anger management classes and counseling and everything just for the dean to let me back on campus. So I started, and I made a promise to the lady. I said, I'm gonna be, your best student here. And I did that. I graduated the top of my class from the barbering program. I was summa cum laude, and man, it was a great feeling. I learned a lot. I went in, I knocked the barber school out in 11 months. I immediately took my test 2 weeks after finishing barber school. I passed my test. And from that point, I started working. I'm working with my boy Dan, right back to Dan Moore. He gives me a job at his shop. And I'm working in Pensacola for a couple months, and it's just not picking up fast enough for me. And I go to search in different places and areas, and I link in with a guy named Bill. I was in barber school with Bill, William Gregory. And I come up to Bill's shop and see they got a nice flow, got a nice work. This is where I want to work at. I like the walk-in clientele. And I come in, and I told Bill I want to start. Bill said, you can start Saturday. I started that next Saturday, and man, it was just on from there. From that point, working with Bill, I was able to build clientele. I was able to save money, and I started to pay my bills, and I started to take care of my family. And before long, after working with Bill for about a year or so, I moved my family from Pensacola to Crestview. So, we moved to Crestview now. I'm here now. I'm able to market more. I'm able to get out in the community and have my face be seen. So, I always told Bill that I would start my own barbershop, you know what I mean? So from the beginning, he always knew I wanted to start my own. After about 3 years of working with Bill, that's when I adopted the name Anointed Hands and started putting it on my paperwork. Well, I didn't adopt it. My wife actually came up with the name. Yeah. I got to give it a credit for Anointed Hands because I honestly was going to call myself B Styles and Cuts. But, nah, that wasn't going to work, So we sitting in the car one day, we riding. You know how we do. We riding, we vibing, husband and wife. So I said, baby, I think about names. What can I name my business? She said, you're going to have to give it a name that catches. She's always very truthful, and she tells me stuff, and you don't always want to hear it at the time. She said, it's going to be catchy. I said, I was thinking B Styles Cuts is for the name. And she looked at me and she was like, no, that name it's not catchy. That name doesn't do anything for you. She said, you have to represent, what do you say? She said, you always tell me that your hands are anointed by God and that, you can feel the anointing in your hands while you cut. And she said, Anointed Hands Family Barbershop. And I looked at it and I'm like, you know what, baby, that's got a ring to it. So I started calling myself Mr. Anointed Hands on my business cards and attaching that to my name and attaching that to my product. And didn't know that Anointed Hands would be, you know, where it is today. Oh man, yeah, I worked with Bill for 5 years, man. Craftsman's Cuts. Shout out to Craftsman's Cuts. I learned a lot, you know, from that guy, man. A lot about, you know, how to run a successful business, and man, he's a great barber. So I definitely learned a lot about, you know, the craft. Okay, man, I worked there for 5.5 years, and you know, I said I was gonna be there for 5 years. So at the 5 year mark, I started to put the pressure on myself. You know, during them 5 years, I saved up and I grinded, I saved up and I was dedicated. And so I'm getting close to opening that business, and boom, I have to adopt two of my brother's children. And I would have done it, you know, thankful that my wife, you know, she's in compliance with, you know, the decision. And we bring in two more kids to the family. So now it's like, boom, how am I gonna open the shop? You know, now with two more kids on top of things already being, you know, not easy as I thought it would be to open up. Well, man, I kept working. Me and my wife came together, and you know, we was able to get the funds necessary to go out and open the shop. And during the time, I had been looking for a building. I was looking for a building to get in, and I had this one building. I talked to this guy maybe once a week for about a year, and he said, "Yeah, the building's yours. You can get it. You can get it. The building's yours." And I was like, "Great, this is going to be the building for me." So I go get all the money out the bank that next morning. I couldn't get out that night. The banks had closed. I get that money out the next morning. I go to the guy. I'm so excited. I'm ready to get this building. And I get there, and then the guy says, "Oh, well, somebody bought the building last night." I said, "Well, I thought you was going to speak with me. I've been talking to you for a year. I'm upset." I know you can hear it in my voice. And he was like, "Well, I sold the building to a medical company, and they have clients and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I was devastated. You know, I got this money, but, you know, there's really no other buildings in town, so that I think. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do now?" At this point, I even contemplated, you know, giving up. All right, back. Yeah, so make a long story short, the guy got rid of the building. He sold it to somebody else. And so now I had to find somewhere else. Like I said, I thought about giving up, but I didn't. I continued to look. So I looked around town that day, couldn't find a building that was worth getting. Everything was too high. So I said, I went back to the shop. I talked to my wife, and I told her that I thought about giving up. And she basically cussed me out and was like, "No, you're going to do this. Put that money in the bank." And as I started back cutting, man, I got a call from Pastor Albert Wright. He was coming to get a haircut. Well, we're going to try to skip to the story. Like I say, Pastor came in, got his haircut, and said, "I got a building for you to look at." Really didn't want to look at the building. I was upset. So I finished cutting his hair. He called me and said, "Hey, you want to come look at this building?" Well, I came downtown Crestview and didn't think I could afford anything downtown Crestview. So I got down here, I looked at the building immediately. I knew that this was the building for me. So we came in, we talked, we worked the deal. All the numbers was right as far as moving in the building and getting the construction done. So, you know, that next morning we dropped the money, signed the contracts, and 2 weeks later, you know, I was in this building right here, which is, you know, now Anointed Hands Family Barbershop, that we've been here for 5 years. And when I say it worked out perfect, to the point to where I got some bricks outside with my name on it in front of the building. You know, when God does something, he does it purposely and with a plan. So now we're coming up to the end, y'all. This is my About Me. I am Byron Williams, owner and operator of Anointed Hands Family Barbershop. And I thank you guys for listening to my story. Hit like, hit subscribe, share with your friends, comment. I hope this story can help someone, and know that, you know, if you're in a bad place, all you got to do is just put some dedication into a plan, stick with it, and keep God first. You know, in this video, I'd like to give a shout out to a few people. First and foremost, we'll give a shout out to God up above for making it possible. I want to give a shout out to my wife, Veronica Williams. I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Lonnie Johnson, known as Lonnie 24K. on YouTube for just, like I say, continue to inspire me. I want to give a shout out to William Gregory, Bill the Barber. I want to give a shout out to Dan Moore. And you'll be seeing it.
Got nothing going on.